even if you look at premium brands like Gucci, LV, or anything that you like, they are not for everyone. Yes.
They all know who their absolutely. They all know who their target customer is. They know their customer. They know where their customer shops. They know where what their customer is looking for. And I say this all the time about us. I know where my customer shops for a car. I know where my customer shops for groceries. I know what's important to my customer. I know where they work. I know how they spend their time outside of work. We know our customer probably better than anybody in the industry that I've ever seen. And we are not a huge company. We purposely stay at a very specific level of revenue because we know where our sweet spot of profitability is. Could we be bigger? Yes. Could we be smaller? Yes. Do we want either of those? No, because we know we are very dialed into where our sweet spot of profitability is. And, but I know, we know our customer. If I was going to, if I was going to spend money on marketing and
Yes.
advertising, I know right where to spend my money because I
Yes.
know where my kind of customer shops, right? I know. And so, it's very easy for us, in that respect. I think where roofers, a lot of roofers, not all, because I've seen some that are way better way better than me at this, right? There's people I admire out there, and I'm sure they do it far better than I do. Every day I'm still learning. I didn't grow up a roofer, and I don't call myself a roofer. My husband, my son, they actually are out there doing the real work, and I call them real roofers, right? But I am not a real roofer. I am a business owner, and that's that's my specialty. But I think where I see a lot of roofing companies go wrong is they're trying to serve everybody because they don't see a path to survival other than volume. And I just have always thought it was the wrong approach. Now, it may work for some, right? It's obviously works for some, but I have never seen that be overall a long-term plan that works because every year is different. And listen, one bad thing that happens, one problem that arises from a project that you did, one disagreement with a customer, the longevity of your business can be drastically affected. And so I look at it and I say, if somebody gives you a negative review, how do you address, and I've received a negative, a couple of negative reviews. Typically it revolves around payment. And but that's pretty much par for the course in this industry. But I think that at the end of the day, one negative review can really hurt your business. So I think you have to really look at all aspects of this and say, if I'm trying to serve everyone, I'm trying to serve a client over here that doesn't really care about their roof and they're only, getting a new roof because insurance is paying for it. Or I'm serving a customer over here that really does care and they're willing to pay for better work, but I'm providing them the same level of service that I'm providing this guy down here. At some point in there, there's going to be some negative repercussions of that. We serve one type of client. That is the kind of client that's willing to pay for it, regardless of whether insurance is paying or whether insurance is not paying. They are smart business people. They're smart money people. And they are people that recognize that paying for quality service, paying for the best out there, is actually an investment for them. Might cost a little more, than this guy over here, but that it's an investment for them, right? They're just investing in their property, which is, probably in some cases one of many assets, but in other cases, the largest investment that they'll ever make. So we know what kind of client that we're serving and what their expectations are and what we're willing to do to deliver. I am not out here trying to serve all different kinds of clients because to me, it just brings me headache. So I think just knowing your client changes your strategic approach to how you run your business.
Perfect. And you know what, Crystal? You mentioned that you know your sweet spot, and I loved that because I read somewhere that greatness of a company doesn't depend on the revenue or the size of the company. It depends on the customer experience and the satisfaction, that the amount of people it can handle correctly. And I am like, when I tell roofers that this is not the right approach, like you should niche down and you should figure out who are the customers that you should work with, they tell me that, oh no, screw you haven't even stepped on roofs, so you don't know it. And you are someone who has been there, who has done that. Why do you feel that this happens? But what I feel is that a lot of roofers, they come from a background that is scarcity based background, and they feel that if they don't have the volume, or if they say no to anyone, they will lose business or they will go out of business. That's just my belief. Maybe I'm wrong here. What do you think is the reason behind this?
No, I think you're right. I think it's very fear-based. I think there's a lot of fear-based thinking out there. And when you combine fear-based thinking with a lack of confidence, a lack of self-confidence, a lack of pride in your company, maybe, I think there's a few things that I see affect it. But fear-based thinking and a lack of confidence to me says that this is where you see companies that say, I'll roof anything, including a doghouse, right? It doesn't matter to me what it is or where the money is coming from. I just need the money so I can make sure that I can survive. And I think those are often, sadly, the same companies that you don't see in business 3 years later. But I think fear-based people don't really give enough credit to the problems that fear-based thinking creates. I learned in the hotel business, revenue. Revenue was always fascinating to me, and how we managed, how revenue was managed, and it's very interesting that when you look at managing revenue in that industry, how similar it is to basically any other industry it can be applied. But in that business, what you're really looking at is what is the nightly rate that I need to be at that creates a desire to stay at my property and a profit that meets my goal, right? Because if I only focus on the profit over here, then I'm going to drive rates up to a level that is going to actually deter people from wanting to stay at my property. They're going to go choose somewhere else that might be cheaper or fits whatever their need is. But there's a balance that you can really get to down to the pennies. You can get to a balance that says, at this rate, I meet my revenue and profitability goals, but I also have the highest rate of occupancy. And I think if you look at that model, and you can apply that to the roofing industry, right? Where do I need to be to meet my profitability goals as a company that gives me the ability to invest back in my company, invest in my staff, invest in assets, and still be able to provide a high quality product without overcharging, without leaving money on the table. Right. So it's very much a balance that you have to get to, and you can never get there if it doesn't start with knowing your numbers. Right. So I just look at it, and I kind of just took common sense from what I learned in another industry and said, okay, I can get to where I want to be profitability wise, what meets our goal, and still gives the customer the best quality product without cutting any corners, taking things away. What do I have to do to still provide that and meet our revenue goals, right? That's where we are. That's where we want to be. That's what our sweet spot is. Let's find that. And that's our foundation for operation.
Great.